Hello folks, and welcome back to this refurbishment of the Fokker DR1. Now last session I separated the upper and the middle wing and I actually rebuilt, well let's have a quick look at it. I rebuilt this rib here which supports the strut that goes through. Now a couple of people have actually commented, why don't I make the wings all removable? Well, to be quite honest with you, I like the idea of keeping the wings together on a biplane if at all possible. Now, some people seem to think that that makes storage more difficult. Well, it does to a certain degree and transport more difficult, but that to me is outweighed by the ability to have less rigging at the field, less bolts to drop in the grass and more time flying. So if I can actually keep the thing jigged together, I prefer it that way. So I am actually going to use the upper wing and the middle wing as a pair and slide through and bolt together the struts to the lower wing. So that's my philosophy anyway. The next thing is I need to address this part of the wing. Now, this owes its origins to a flare design, I believe a baronet that's been scaled up, and to simplify the structure and the build, they haven't incorporated the scalloped out area here, which in the prototype improved visibility for the pilot. Well, after all, it is a fighter, or was a fighter, and visibility kept you alive. However, I think to get the feel of the DR1, that those scallops need to be in. Now, where do they go? I'm not quite sure. I've had a look at drawings, I've had a look at photographs, and it seems to vary. I don't know if the design varied, but this is a semi-scale model, and as long as the scallops appear in some form, I think it will improve dramatically the look of the aircraft. So if we look at the area that I've marked out with the pen, the marker pen here, I'm going to begin by cutting this out, cutting this back to see what's going on underneath here. I'm thinking about a scallop like that. Ideally, I would like to bring it all the way back to here, I think, but this cabine bracket is on a wooden support piece, a hardwood wooden support piece, and I don't want to weaken the structure by taking it all the way back. I'll not know what's there until I begin cutting this out. If I can, I'll go all the way back to there. If not, I'm going to have to live with the cutout being a little bit further back. And this line signifies the edge of the fuselage. All this has been removed, as you can see. That needs to be plated as well. So, and this area is broke off, but it's not a big deal. The next job is to concentrate on getting these scallops cut out. So let's get cracking and cut this out and see what we've got. Well, there you have it. I've removed that. It always feels a little bit brutal. And I now understand how this is constructed. You have two ribs and then sandwiched in between you have a hardwood piece that this cabine bracket is actually glued, bolted to, screwed to. I'm not sure what's going on there. Well, I've made a decision. I'm not going to cut this all out and remove a lot of the strength in doing so. I think I'll get the effect I want by putting the scallop about there. And that'll be the look that you get on this part of the wing. And then this can be built up in a suitable manner. So I'm going to have a little think about how I'm going to do that. I think I'm going to reinforce it with some quarter balsa sheet along the bottom. I'll have to cut out a step in this lower rib to do so. And then build up the curvature, a curved piece here. So the first thing to do, I'm not going to cut this out yet. The first thing to do is to actually measure up and get the 1/4 inch sheet going across the bottom here to add some strength to this part of the wing. What I'm doing here is I've put the sheet of 1/4 underneath and I've marked down the line where it joins to this inner rib, and I've marked on the shape that I would like the cutout to follow. Now I'll use that to produce an identical one for the other side because I don't want them to be different. Then I'm going to step this part of the rib so I can glue that in, and that's going to provide a connection between the centre part of the wing and the main wing, because obviously we're removing this section here. Then that'll be used to build up the actual curvature that's required on this cutout. Here we go then. I've glued a 1/4 inch infill into here and into here, because obviously that was a bit of a void. This has been glued in, and I've copied that onto the sheet so it's a duplicate for the other side. I'm about to make this cut here, and now Fritz's visibility will suddenly increase and he'll be able to fight against the brave British boys and French boys and American boys. So here we go. I'm going to make this cut now, and then we've started to scallop the wings. Ta-da! There we go. So that now needs to be built up here and shaped, and that'll have to be done with some thicker balsa. So I'll have to have a look through my box and see what I've got available, and we'll start building this up. There we go. There we have it then. That's the process completed, other than cleaning it up. I'm pleased with the way that's gone. Perhaps I may add a piece in here, I'm not sure, and some triangular gussets in there, but my impression actually is that this is extremely strong. It's not weakened the structure at all. If anything, it's much stronger than it was before. So I need to repeat that on the other side, and then that's this part of the process done. And I'll turn my attention to sorting this decking out, what will be the hatch, replacing this part at the back. I had thought about bolting it here and here, but that means that it's very difficult to get in to actually fasten it to the fuselage. So I'm going to stick with the way it is. A pilot will cover these bolts anyway. I'll work out something to install a pilot in the cockpit here. So I'll crack on with this, and then we'll see what it looks like when both sides are done. It's cleaned up a little. Little bit of a progress update here. I've had to replace some parts of the sheeting which have been damaged in the process of ripping things apart. As you can see, I've added this former or shape, I don't know what you would call it actually, for the cutout for this side. That's done. I've put a plywood sheet in here on top of some of the formers, and the reason for that is the guns have to be mounted to something solid, and it was only 3/16 balsa here, and that's no good. So I'll be able to actually put some hardwood blocks onto this and then screw through it. But in the process, I've discovered this. So it's a hole going through the middle wing, and it came from the upper wing for the aileron leads. But here's a crazy thing. A hole's been drilled right through the main spars. Crazy. So the way around it, what I'm going to do, I've got some dowel of that diameter. It's actually for doweling together furniture. It's got grooves in the side of it. I'm going to coat that in epoxy and push it through. It'll be a tight fit in here. Push that through and then saw it off level, and that should do the job. It is braced each side with plywood, but nevertheless a crazy thing to do. But this is what happens when you take on somebody else's project. You've got to work around things. Obviously, I've built up here, haven't sanded it yet. I need to build up here, and there's a piston heat added on at the back, but it's nearly there. Well, one more crack at this, and I'll show you when it's all sorted out. Well, I'm calling this video coming to a close. There we have it. The main constructive surgery has been carried out. The cutouts have been done and the replacement's achieved. It needs fettling now and tidying up and the paint removing and so on. And of course it needs the riblets adding. And then once that's done, I'll cover them in the same way that the lower wings have been covered, with the dressmaker's lining, skirt lining. So there you go. This obviously needs to be built. The cabin, the cockpit rather, needs to be added on, and the decking needs to be completed. And then it's time to actually, I think, well, definitely build the upper wings before I actually get stuck into the fuselage. Thanks for sticking with me. Give it a thumbs up if you've enjoyed this journey so far, and subscribe if you haven't done so yet. And by doing so, you'll carry on seeing the adventures that I'm getting up to. If you can get flying, please do so. If you can't, let's get creative.